Hey everyone, my name is Angie. I am a grateful recovering alcoholic. Um, I thought I'd prep something for this, but I didn't. So here I go. Thanks for going on this ride with me, and thanks for being a part of it up until now. Um, I know it's usually experience, strength, and hope-ish. I'm gonna turn it around and go with she. I'm going to give you my she, my strength, my hope, and experience for for she. Uh, and so I found this picture of me and my dad um, not long ago, and I decided to put it up and to look at it every day. Um, so for she, for she, I have strength. Um, it takes strength to do what I'm doing and to get through what I've gone through. Um, my hope is to as I just heard for the suffering alcoholic, I just realized that my hope is to not suffer. The suffering part is what I can do something about. The alcoholic I can't, but so there's my strength, my hope, and my experience. Trigger warning and full transparency, there might be words in there that are triggering to some folks, so just want to give a heads up in advance. Okay. Well, it all started with my dad, I guess. He came into my mom's life pretty bad alcoholic, I think. Um, and when I came along, I think I gave him a gift. And he loved me like he just loved the fuck out of me. Still he was sick. Uh and growing up, he was my hero. Um but it was my hero that gave me the worst physical and emotional pain. Um I would get these really gnarly stomach aches when he would drink because he would beat my mom. Um and that was just my life. I didn't think anything of it. As a kid, you don't really think much of these things because you don't know better. Um, and yeah, I grew up just standing by watching him beat my mom. And I remember this particular time where I was older. I must have been like 6. Um, he got really drunk and he beat my mom up. He had her by her hair and was slamming her head on the sink. And I was standing there with my little sister, um, not really being able to do much. Um, and I think from that moment on, I kind of put myself away. But I'll talk about that in a minute. He died. He was killed when I was 9. And he was left in front of my house. Uh, so we woke up to him lying in the street in front of our house, his pants down, with a giant punch mark on his chest. And his van was parked in the back, and there was blood. And to this day, we don't even know what happened. But he was drunk, and he was out. Um, Important to say that the night before, he pulled me out of the house drunk, and he told me that it was my responsibility, that I was strong, and that if anything were to happen to him, needed to take care of my mother and my sister. Um, and that, I could look up at the stars, and the biggest star would be him. Um, So that happened. And then the next morning, wake up, my mom's, just a mess, rightfully so. He didn't, I'm not ready to unpack this whole thing, but he went and got her from Mexico when she was young. He was already older. They came over and he kind of being the alcoholic he was, he didn't allow her any sort of independence. He didn't let her work. He didn't, you know, get her citizenship or anything. He just wanted to be the sole provider, and he worked at a swap meet, so he didn't have, you know, a retirement plan or a debit card or a bank account for that matter. He just had cash on him, so anything he made, he had a big wad of cash in his wallet. So anyway, he was robbed the day he was killed, and you know, all the money that I guess he had was taken, and so my mom was left to take care of two two little girls, without speaking English, without a job, without, I mean, barely, I think, an ID card. And the detective said that we had to move out of there. It was in Watts, by the way. I grew up in Compton and then lived in Watts. They said we should move out of there because it was a potential targeted uh, incident. And so we moved naturally to Almani, where his sister lived. My mom didn't have any family. She doesn't have any family here. So I grew up around my dad's family, which, well, they're not, you know, the nicest folks or the kindest or the just not great. They're not family. Needless to say, it was a difficult time afterwards, acclimating to a new city, not even grieving the you know, the loss of your hero. I went into a complete state of shock because I don't remember much. I kind of was just numb, I think. I definitely didn't cry, and yeah, I was just, I couldn't have possibly processed anything. And my mom didn't, she didn't have the tools herself, so it was no way that she could have given him to me, or my sister, and we both grew up with that. I mean, we never even talked about it. Um, that's something that I think I grew resentment over. So we grew up there in Almani. We lived with my aunt and her 9 sons and 1 daughter in the same house, mostly. So we were just extra, and we grew up extra without, you know, much help. My mom took care of kids to have money to pay for rent, and you know, she always did her part, and she was the best mom. She is the best mom I could have asked for. She did everything she could with what she had. Still, it was difficult, you know. I wanted things, and I couldn't ask for them because this entire time I'm supposed to be caring for them, and my mom is doing all she can, and I have to be there for her, or at least I thought I did. And so I couldn't be the kid that I was. I couldn't want, I couldn't need. Um, and anytime my sister did, I would be mad at her because it was just too much. It was too much for my mom, and we couldn't be burdens on the hardship already. So going back to what I was saying about locking myself away, I think I every everything that made me me, everything that made me human, I think I put away because at that moment I couldn't just be. There is no safety, there is no sense of security, there's no opportunity. I think it was just going through the motions of life and not knowing which way is up, not knowing what the fuck is going on or what was gonna happen. I did have love. My mom gave us all the love. But you know, but it wasn't my dad's love. It wasn't my hero's love. So I have still a complicated relationship with my mom. At some point, I wrote a letter saying that I wish I had gone with my dad that night because I didn't want to be there. I tried to have a teenage angst, but I couldn't. I felt too guilty about it. And I think I tried getting attention in different ways, but I guilted myself out of it. So all this is just, you know, accumulating in my life without any sort of output. I was just an asshole, and I think trickling down, I just took it out on my sister and my little sister. My mom remarried Uh, he was a great dude. He was a great guy, but I never allowed him to be my dad because he wasn't my dad. That was a resentment, and he got it as well. So did my mom. I was just miserable. On top of that, I was a tomboy and I got bullied by my family and I got bullied at school and just all the time. Um, so yeah, fast forward, I didn't cry for decades about my dad. And that's, being the biggest trauma I think that I could put my hands on. I think that was um what I thought I had to resolve in order to be okay and not get so angry when I drank more recently. Um, there was sexual abuse by cousins. Um, there was abuse by my mom's brother, whom she's a loving, loving person. And in our tiny home, she welcomed people that needed help. And her stepbrother came with his guy friend and they needed a place to stay. And my mom, being who she is, allowed them, just not really like considering that because they're family, right? And neither did I. And from both of them, um, I blamed myself a lot for that. I didn't think I could ever say anything about it or talk about it. So that happened. Um, Sorry, took me a little bit. I'm just gonna jump back and forth. So more recently, towards the end of my drinking, I decided to be ballsy and tell my mom all my truths, right? This is around the time I was encouraging Andy to face her truth, so I couldn't be a hypocrite about it. I told my mom what happened, and she couldn't believe it. Um, well, neither could I, saying it out loud to her. Somewhere along the line before that, my sister told me that she was raped and that I let it happen. And I was taken back, as probably all of you are hearing me say it, because what the fuck? Um, and I think there's minutes in every day where I go back and think, like, how the fuck, when the fuck? Um, All I know is that I let my sister come around to me and my friends when I started drinking, and I don't know if it was then or if it was my uncles. Um, but anyway, I told my mom about what happened, and I told her that she should talk to my sister because it likely happened to her too. And that was 3 years ago, and my sister has blocked me and not talked to me ever since. It wasn't my story to tell, and I'm not proud of it. And it was while I was drunk, and I thought it was the best thing. And I thought resolving my shit would help my sister as well. And that was fucking awful. Anyway, fast forward to 17, on my 17th birthday. I went out with friends from school, and one of my friends bought a giant bottle of Sky vodka, and we drank the entire thing. And the taste, as I've heard people say, was like a warm hug, and it was familiar, and I understood why people drank. Of course, there's alcohol throughout my entire life. Everyone around me, my cousins, obviously my dad, my stepdad, um, just all around. I didn't know it to be anything different. If there was not alcohol, then there was something probably wrong. So when I took that first drink, I was in, and it was only a matter of time before I did take that drink. And it's silly because in the beginning of my sobriety, my recovery, I thought I understood the relationship I had with alcohol, and it's partially true that, it was my best friend. It gave me the strength I needed, and, I couldn't do much without it throughout the progression of my disease. But now I see it differently and I understand it differently the more I reflect on my life. The more I see how my dad, needed it, the more I believe it is genetic, and I believe I it was only a matter of time, like I said. So I used it to make friends. I was cool, I was fun, and I was all the things that I wanted to be. I got pretty popular in school, and I was getting attention because my body was developing and I was no longer made fun of, but I was getting attention differently, and it was great. I was fucking prom queen, and it just was party, party, fucking party. I got a job at 17 to start helping my mom. Um, and I told her, like the fucking grown ass adult that I thought I was, that I was gonna do whatever I wanted because I had a job and I was gonna provide and pay for rent. And so, of course, she didn't like it, but she didn't have a choice because, well, she doesn't drive, she doesn't have a job, she doesn't, I was just an asshole, and I think that's when I took it out the most. I, yeah, I was just awful to myself. I thought I was being good to myself, but I wasn't. I was partying and just my mom plenty of times had to ask my cousins to drive her to parties where I was, and would try to go and get me, and I would be a raging bitch and just an asshole and mad at her, and would leave when she'd tell me not to leave, and I would just go and drive drunk and be drunk. And I mean, my drunk-a-log can go on for for hours, I think. So, but I think y'all are familiar with with how that goes. Yeah, there's times where one particular time I was driving my friends in my car, and I picked up from one block to, I think, 3 blocks later, I picked it up to 100, and I decided for some fucking reason to turn left, and that car could have flipped. But I realized I was in control. Anyway, I got onto the sidewalk and fucked my car up, but nothing happened. Um, I got pulled over with like 7 or 8 people in my car as well, and the cops let me go, and they pulled me over again, and for some fucking reason didn't give me a DUI. So it's only a matter of time before those uh those became more than roadblocks. Um, Thankfully they never did. My drinking just continued as a part of my life. People dropped out of my life, and I just figured it was them. Yeah, I guess I should just fast forward. I was married when I was married, like, I don't know, several years ago, and that relationship ended because I was just in a situation I shouldn't have been. Um, and it was I I was just an asshole, I there's just no way I could have comprehended the gravity of my reality, and how I couldn't possibly you can't assess something that you don't know is wrong. And anytime I did something, I mean, plenty of blacking out, plenty of just being a dick and a ruthless, careless person whom I actually really am not. I'm not those things, and I couldn't explain it, but I figured, oh well, next time, everything they say in the book is next time I'll just drink less. Maybe no shots next time. Maybe next time I'll eat more before drinking. Maybe next time I'll drink more water before, like I just every single thing in the book I considered and I tried. I aspired to be a better alcoholic. Honestly, I shouldn't say alcoholic. I aspired to be cooler in my drinking. I aspired to be like those cool people that would be at bars during the day and just hang out with the bartenders. I was a bartender myself, and I started having the leftover beer and going home, and I figured, oh, this is people do this all the time. I can do it. Um, yeah, looking back at the early times of my drinking, I I had an encounter with I was coming out, sort of finding myself. I was okay with I would make out with people at the club, but I would drink before. So it was an excuse to be myself. It was an excuse to explore myself. Um, and around that time, I met someone, and I had them come over, and it was a female, and I thought it was okay, and I thought that's how things happened, but it shouldn't have happened. And I'm not going to use the R word, but I it shouldn't have happened. It was my first time with a female, and she knew what she was doing, and I didn't, and I needed to be cool because I was experiencing. So that that happened. Um, And yeah, then I came out, and of course the drinking just continued with everyone in the queer community. You know, all this time being popular, being gay, being with partners, meeting their partners, I never found a community, and I always searched for it. I searched, I mean, I needed it even as a kid. I didn't have it with family. I didn't have it anywhere. And so I always seeked it. Always seeked it. And that I can say honestly, I looked for it at bars every night, every time I went out. Um, I looked for it online. I looked for it anywhere, and I just kept hitting walls. Um, and I think towards the end of my drinking, I kind of found the common denominator as myself. It got really dark, really fast. This past year, I found the person that, I think is the love of my life, and I managed to really fuck that up. Um, and I realize now that it's because she was simply a mirror of who I am, um, and who I was, and I didn't like it, and anything and everything I said to her was for me. Um, and as selfish as that sounds, it wasn't about her. It was about me. It had nothing to do with her almost. Um, but but that's not for her. That's for me. Yeah, I got to the point where I wanted to jump out of a car on the freeway. Sorry, let me backtrack. Um, uh, I wasn't working the past year where my drinking got worse, and I figured I would use this hiatus as a time to reflect and grow and work out and be with myself and be by myself. And I was going to be happy, and I was determined. And I thought by accepting that my dad was dead or killed, that I would be okay, and that I would stop lashing out, and I would stop being an asshole when I drank, because it wouldn't make any fucking sense to me why I would say the things that I'd say when I didn't actually feel them. Um, and every time I'd read a book and get enlightened, um, I think that that was it. I think that I finally reached what I needed to reach. Um, And after my divorce, there was an exponential amount of growth and understanding of myself. But to be fair, I was dry. Anytime there's been growth in my life, I've been dry. Uh, and for that reason, I think I struggled with any sort of pride in my sobriety, because I'd been dry for a longer period of time. Um, so yeah, I thought that by accepting all the hard shit that happened in my life, I'd be a better drunk. I'd be happy drunk like other people. I'd be fun like I used to be. But I couldn't. Um, and I started realizing that even in times where I wasn't drunk, I was not okay. And I couldn't figure out why. I confided in Andy and I told her, Andy was my partner. I told her that I couldn't find even an ounce of happiness in things that would, should, and typically have made me happy. Going to dinner with no stress, nothing to worry about at all in the world. My mom's okay. I'm okay, I'm happy, like my dog's okay. I couldn't find happiness. I was still fucking miserable. And it was just bad and trifled when I was drunk. Um, I'd think that I'd just have a good time. I'd need to de-stress, so I'm gonna go have some beers and play pool because that's what I love to do. That's my me time with my best friend and my, the love of my life. Let's go have a good time. And 3, 4 times a week, that good time I never found it. I found worse and worse and worse times every time. Um, and I couldn't fucking figure it out. Um, I I questioned everything in the search for this darkness. I questioned my gender. I questioned my orientation. I questioned my beliefs. I, I couldn't find it, and rightfully so because I had no fucking idea. It was right in front of me, right at the tip of my lip, is where the issue was. How long has it been? 30 minutes. Okay, so uh yeah, so I my last drunk, I had been dry for a month and a half, and I drank for a fucking Halloween party that I thought was gonna be fun. So I really somehow I think my subconscious or my myself, I didn't want to take that. I was gonna pregame at home before the party to go, the White Claw. I couldn't fucking drink it, and I was like, don't be a little bitch. Like just fucking drink it. Like I had to hype myself up to drink it because I wasn't going to. I didn't feel like it. I didn't want to. I had a bad feeling, but I did because I wasn't a little bitch, right? Mama ain't raised no quitter. And I chugged it. And then of course shots after, and then Coke. And yeah, we went out to that party. And of course I was the only one partying at this house party because people were just having a good time. It was a fucking Sunday night. And it was Andy's coworker, and we'd become friends, but still, uh, it was these bougie people in San Francisco, and I was being ratchet as fuck. And anyway, we were not escorted, but like it was time to go, right? And I wasn't ready to fucking go, so I was in the car and I was pissed, and of course I was taking it out on Andy, and I just wasn't ready to go home. And so I told her I wanted to go to a bar, and she said it wasn't a good idea. And I said, well, of course she doesn't know better, right? She's them when she's not on my side. So I got out of the car at a red light, not before grabbing my ID and my vape. Um, and I walked the streets of San Francisco at night. Um, and Yeah, I was walking around with the guy, a stranger that I met on the street, um, not before trying to go and get free drinks at a couple of bars at least, and embarrassing myself and getting myself kicked out because I was already browning out by this point. I was fucked up. Um, yeah, I remember being at a bar, getting kicked out, and then I don't remember. And Andy tells me that she picked me up and that I was around unhoused people and they were doing all kinds of shit, and they threw food at her for trying to get me. They threw stuff at her, and that broke me. And for the first time, I realized that all of my drinking had been accompanied. So someone essentially was holding my hand. Someone was there drinking with me. Someone was there to get me home, whether it be my very best friend from high school that I partied with for years, um, that never left my side and I never left his, or it be my partner, whichever partner it happened to be. Someone was always taking care of me, um, which I'm very grateful for because who knows what the fuck would have happened. Um, until that last night. That last night, there was no one there with me, and I was just there by myself. In anything could have happened, and I got really fucking scared, and I knew that I was going to die. I woke up and I told Andy that I couldn't do it anymore, that I was gonna die. And it's silly because while drunk, I wasn't afraid to die. I kind of wanted to die. But this was a different kind of fear that I was very afraid. I was afraid of myself. I was afraid of what that drunk self would get me to do or to be. And I was fucking tired of it. I was scared of it. I didn't want it anymore. And I knew I was gonna die. It was gonna fucking kill me. And this is having no exposure at all to AA, no exposure at all to alcoholism, nothing, nothing, nothing at all. Um, because Andy and I talked about it, and alcohol is never the problem. It's alcohol just accentuates the issues, and it's the issues that need to be resolved. Partially true, but also failing to recognize this fucking disease that is more than just the drinking. So anyway, I just went on my computer and I started researching, and there was this quiz about something called alcohol abuse disorder. And I took the quiz, and turns out I'm an alcoholic. So I did more research, more research, more research, more research, more research. And I decided I needed to go to a meeting because it was my last fucking resort. And I did. And I heard my story in every fucking share. And at first it felt like this is some fucking prank, right? Like this can't be real. How? But I did. And I couldn't stop crying, it was just a big realization, and a connection to my dad and everyone in my life, that just it all just clicked and made sense. And I realized that I'm an alcoholic, and ever since then I have not had a craving to drink. And I've had the best kind of realizations since then. I've had just such a want to be better, and such a selfish as it sounds, such a like weight lifted off my shoulders, that I just wasn't that fucking person, that I really, really, really wasn't. And then I'm just fucking sick. And that there's something I could fucking do about it. Like, I can't tell you how much of a relief it was, and it is. And it wasn't a blanket to cover all my fuck ups or my asshole ways. Like, it really wasn't. And I know how that must have sounded to my then partner, and potentially to, the people that know. Like, it just, to me, it all just made sense. And throughout my recovery, I've had, especially early on, I think, moments where before really knowing like the steps, or having a sponsor, doing the online meetings, I came to a point where I would cry about the fact that my partner had broken up with me, but then I would just keep crying and keep crying and keep crying. And I'd be on the bathroom floor in an, I swear, a pile of drool and tears and ugly crying. And it felt like for hours I would just cry, and it was really like it would always end up to it would end up um with her. Um my little um I had to let her out. I realized that I'd caged her, and I'd been the worst anyone could ever be. I'd been the worst to myself, to my little. And I fucking blamed her for some stupid fucking reason. Um, I'd blamed her for the life that I was living in, which doesn't make any fucking sense, but um, yeah, I had to let her out. I had to let her be. And that was really hard because I did it to myself. Um, so like loving yourself, but also understanding that you did it to yourself is really fucking difficult and it's a mind fuck. And as strange as this sounds, I haven't had resentment. Really haven't had like this deep, ugly resentment that I lived with my entire life. This suffering, I haven't felt it ever since maybe the second really big cry that I had. Um, and because I cried and I mourned for myself. I finally understood my dad. Um, it all just made sense, and I wasn't angry with him anymore. I really just fucking understood, and I felt sad that he never got the opportunity. Not saying that he would have, but the opportunity to be where I am and to understand what I understand. And I think if he'd known the loss and the impact he had on our lives, he might have gone to a meeting or two. But I don't, it doesn't matter. The point is I understand and I don't have anger. I don't have anger anymore. I don't have fucking resentment at all. Like I really don't. And I'm really grateful for it. That's why I say, every time I introduce myself as a grateful recovering alcoholic because I'm fucking so grateful that I can do something about it. I can do something about this fucking disease that took a lot of my life and in a lot more ways than one. And a lot of the things in my life that I'm not, they're they're not they're not regrets. They're just things I wouldn't do again. Um, but they are a part of my life, so I don't feel, maybe this is wrong of me, but I don't feel ashamed. Um, I don't feel ashamed of the things that I did and my behavior because I understand it. And I think deep down there's some compassion for myself. I know I sounded selfish as fuck when I was talking to Andy about the stuff that I'd done and she'd bring up and maybe expected some sort of rise out of me, but she experienced my compassion for myself. And you know, I'm not ridding myself of anything. I hold myself entirely accountable for all of my actions, but also I realize uh where I start and where I end and how far that goes and how I can impact someone's life and how I can make a change and that doesn't mean stepping and that doesn't mean controlling anyone's life. That doesn't mean overexerting myself. All I can do now is live my life the way I want to and not suffer, you know. I really got a shitty hand dealt, and so did my mom, and I want to break the cycle. I don't want to continue it. Um, and so now I look at not what I don't have because I could like I think we could all just focus on things to bitch about or to complain about, and I'm not going to speak for you all. I will speak for myself. I can find reasons to complain. I can find reasons to be fucking miserable where I am today. And the part that takes guts is to um, try to see something good in it and find equilibrium. Um, and I realize that I do that now. I do that a lot, and I think it's becoming more of a like an organic response is wanting to find something to balance it out because reality is we can't do anything about life. We can't do anything about the bullshit that happens. Um, the work that we can do is really trying to find the balance so that we don't tip over. Um, I I constantly am amazed by my own um strength, though I'm not able to hold that feeling for too long quite yet. But if I told myself out loud things that I'd done in my sobriety or in my growth, I wouldn't believe that I could do them. Just like, when you're on the treadmill and you tell yourself, oh, 2 more minutes and you end up doing 10, like shit like that. I can't believe I got in a car with everything I owned and drove 10 hours to a city with nowhere to live and a promised job, but not, no contract or anything. I can't believe that I did that. And at the time, I felt the weight. All I felt was the weight and the strength to keep going, but I couldn't see where I was going. I literally drove through a storm, with you all in my pocket, by the way. Um, and I realize now that that weight, that heaviness is my strength. Muscle weighs more than fat, and it just 10 10 pounds of feathers and 10 pounds of brick weigh the same but look differently, and we carry these things, and I think in hindsight a lot of it was complaining about how heavy it is, just bitching about how heavy it is and not realizing it that muscle weighs and all these things, people that carry more weight on them have stronger muscles because their more weight has to be carried around every day. And no, maybe I'm not making any sense, but it makes sense to me that the weight we carry is to build our muscles, and muscle weighs more than fat. So I'm not carrying around things that I don't need. I'm carrying around things that I need to carry with me, and I'm gaining strength through them. So I really want to thank you all for providing this space. I wouldn't say a safe space, but providing, I mean, it is safe, but you all come in here and share the fact that you show up, it really takes strength to be in the program and to do something about it. Because the easy thing to do is to go drink. The easy thing to do is to throw our lives away. And I'll speak for myself. The easy thing for me to do is to go get drunk. The easy thing to do is to run away. It really takes guts to show up to meetings. It takes guts to reach out. I'm learning how to ask for help when I need it. I'm learning how to be there for myself when I need it. And you all do it every single day. And there's a meeting that I can go to where people just like me, not only understand me, but do the same. And that gives me hope. Your strength gives me hope. Hearing your experience, I hear my experience. And there's a myriad of ways I can twist that around. Just thanks for being the mirrors that I need, the reflection that I need to see in my life. Because anytime you say a story, any of you, I will find something about myself in there. And I have strength not only to give to you, but now to put on myself. Um, that means a lot. And I've finally, ironically enough, outside of a bar in sobriety, have found the community and everything I ever thought I could need or want, and more, because I don't know what to do with all your support and love. I really don't. But I finally fucking found it, and it just reassures that I am in the empty room that I need to be in, and in front of the folks that I need to be in front of. And thank you all.